So since we've collected our data, it's time to get started on our graphs. Now, we're going to be making bar graphs today to help represent who we think will win March Madness. Every graph needs to have a title, and so that's where I'm going to start on my graph, is by creating a title. And we have to make sure that we remember that the title should be relevant to the data that we collected. So I'm choosing to call mine, Who Will Win March Madness? This way, when people who approach the graph read it, they'll know what question is trying to be answered or what the data represents. Who will win March Madness? My next step is to actually draw my axes for my graph. So I'm going to start by drawing the y-axis. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 boxes in, and I'm probably going to start up here. And I'm going to trace this line all the way down. That's the great thing about graph paper, is that you can stay right on the line because the lines are already there for you. And I'm going to go about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Let's go 14 boxes down just to make it even. So this is my y-axis, and then I'm going to have to bring it across the bottom to make my x-axis. So the same thing. I'm just going to draw a straight line following that line on the graph paper. So now I have both axes in the base of my graph. My next step is to label my x-axis. And so this is going to be the categories that you collected data on. In our case, it was the different teams that you gave that people could choose from to say who they think will win March Madness. So for example, I would say my first choice was Kentucky. So I'm going to make that one of my labels. And then I'm going to leave myself about a box worth of space before I write my next category. This will help so that my bars, when I go to do the bar and graph them, they don't run together and people can read them. So Duke is my second team. My third team is Villanova. And my fourth team, let's say UNC. So now I have my 4 teams, and yours might look different than mine, but this is where we write our 4 categories. So we can cast our votes. My next step is to complete my y-axis, and this is where I'm going to have my scale. So we talked in class about how your scale can be represented by 1-digit increments, or by 2s, or by 5s, or by 10s, whatever relates most to your data. In this case, since we collected from about 24, 25 people, it's going to make the most sense to use a scale of 2. If you would like to use a scale of 1, that is all right, but I'm going to do a scale of 2. Again, with the graph paper, this is a great chance to just use the lines to help you mark and keep your scale equal. So I'm going to start by counting up 2 horizontal lines. So I have 1 and 2, and you're going to make a little mark and then label it 2. Then I'm going to count up 3, 4, and then 1, 2. So I'm counting up by 2s. And I'll end up here on 14. And we always have to remember that our scale starts at 0. So now I have my scale set up as well as my categories. And now we need to label these. So my categories in this case, I'm going to call them teams. And on my side, we have to talk about what our scale represents. And in this case, that's going to be our number of votes. So now your graph is all set up to be filled in with your personal data. I'm just going to do one quick example. So if I look at my tally chart and I see that I had 5 people that voted and said Kentucky was going to win March Madness, then I'm going to make sure that I am graphing on my scale correctly. I'm going to count up to 5. So I'm going to start my bar graph, and I'm going to see 2, and then I see 4. But uh-oh, here I run into my problem. I only have a 4 and a 6. So I know that 5 comes in between 4 and 6. So I'm going to bring my bar graph to right in the middle, and conveniently there's a line right there for an imaginary 5. And I'm going to finish off my bar, and then you can go ahead and shade it in. This makes it easier for the reader. So now, as someone viewing my graph could see, that I had 5 people that voted for Kentucky to win it all in March Madness. So now this is your chance to fill in your graph with the data that you collected looking at that tally chart and using it to your advantage. Good luck graphing!